Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We are starting with today's session of interaction with all of you. All these days you have been working and you have been learning. If you remember last time when we met, I told you that in, in the field of design, theory comes later, practice comes first. In all other subjects, it is theory that you learn first and then you do practicals. But in the field of design, in order to understand the theory, you have to get into practice. So when you practice with certain amount of practice, you will pick up the theory behind whatever you are doing. So that is what we have been doing all these days. You have been practicing something, some basic principles. Today we will look at the theory behind whatever you have done all these days. So what exactly is the theory? The theory is actually about perception. How do we see things? See, in design, you need to have the capacity to express your thoughts and your ideas onto another medium called drawing. If you are a designer, you use the medium called drawing to express what is in your mind. There are no formulas and principles to create a drawing. Whatever your vision is, whatever your perception is, what you see in reality or what you imagine in your mind, you should be able to draw and show. So that quality is very essential to become a designer. And that is what you have been doing all these days. So today we'll look at the theory behind the act of drawing or the act of creating your whatever you are perceiving onto a piece of paper, how it happens and why it happens, and why it is important to now know the theory, because some people told me that you are not understanding some principles which I have been talking about. So by practice, you would have understood something. Today we will look at all these theories in little bit of detail, and the more practice you do, better you will understand the theory behind perception and the theory behind the act of drawing, or what is called as representation of your thoughts in the visual media. Knowing visual expression of visual thoughts is very important as far as a designer is concerned. So let us take a look at what is perception. Okay, so I'll share my presentation and I'll keep talking about whatever you see as an image. At the end of it, you can ask questions. All right. Okay. So
Yes, sir.
what you see here is just pencil sketch. Sketch which is, you can say it is realistic in nature. These are realistic images. That is, you have sketched, or whoever has sketched it the way he or she has seen. But you will also see these are not sketch or portraits of human beings. These are sketches of two different creatures, a frog and a horse. But do you see emotions in the sketch? You can see certain kind of emotion or expression in both these sketches. That is called capturing the realism of what you are seeing. Your perception, you are perceiving it. You are perceiving certain kind of emotion on the face of the horse as well as the frog. And you perceive it, you look at it, and some they don't sit before you to draw portraits, do they? Horses and frogs cannot sit before you to draw portraits. So you perceive it for a flicker of a second and you remember it and you sketch it. And you capture the emotion exactly the way your mind is perceiving it. This is the power of expression. This is called the power of the capacity to express what you see in the form of drawings. This is one very important quality which you should develop, that of sketching reality. Whatever you see, you sketch. So that means that you should have this habit of going outdoors with your sketchbook. Sit and sketch, look at things and sketch. This has to be a compulsive activity for all of you. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഞാൻ ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ സംസാരിക്കുന്നതിൽ പ്രശ്നമൊന്നുമില്ലല്ലോ. I can explain in Malayalam also. Occasionally I will speak in Malayalam. So വളരെ വളരെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ആക്ടിവിറ്റി നിങ്ങളൊരു ഡിസൈനർ ആവുകയാണെങ്കിൽ വേണ്ടത് എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഒരു ഹോബി വേണം. ട്രാവൽ ചെയ്യുക, സ്കെച്ചിങ് ചെയ്യുക. ഫോട്ടോഗ്രാഫി ഒരു നല്ല ഹോബിയാണ്. ബട്ട് ഫോട്ടോഗ്രാഫി കൂടാതെ സ്കെച്ചിങ് ചെയ്യുക എന്നുള്ളത് ഒരു വളരെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ഹോബിയാണ്. അറ്റ്ലീസ്റ്റ് on a day-to-day basis, you should do at least 1 or 2 sketch, because the advantage is you improve your power of perception. Second, your power of expressing yourself. Now look at this image that you see. I want some of you to unmute yourself and do what the chart says. Look at the chart and say color, not the word. Who will do it first? Say the color that you see, not the word. Huh? Don't read the word. Anybody? Can you do it? Toba, Nihal, Anjali, Shivani, anyone? Unmute yourself and say the color, and fast. You have to do it fast, right from the yellow to orange. What is written yellow and what is written as orange. Do it fast. Read the color, not the what is written.
Green.
Why the delay? There's a delay, right?
Green.
Green, orange, blue, black, red.
No, no.
That is,
Green, orange.
no.
Green, red,
Green,
blue,
red, blue, yellow,
yellow, blue.
black, red,
So, okay,
blue.
okay. You are having difficulty, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody who doesn't have difficulty doing this?
Green, red,
You are having.
red, blue, yellow, blue, black, red,
If you
blue,
can, okay,
green, black.
okay. Hang on, wait. See, if you can do rapid reading of the color, if you can do rapid reading of the color and not what is written, you are a superhuman. That's right. Because this is the problem with perception. This is something which you must understand. Human perception. You see, there is something called left and right conflict in our perception. What is left and right conflict? Your right brain tries to say the color, but your left brain insists on reading the word. That means one half of your brain, that is your right brain, is actually wired to see things as color, texture, shape, form, light, and so on. Whereas your left brain is the brain which analyzes those things, whatever you see in the form of words, and expresses or writes and whatever. So we have this left and right conflict in our perception. Okay, is that clear? Have you understood this part?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
let's go to the
Yes, sir.
next part. Now look at this. Look at this image very clearly. Focus on the dot in the center and keep moving your head backwards and forwards. I cannot see any of you, but I'm sure you'll be doing it. Keep, wherever you are sitting and watching the screen, keep moving your head backwards and forwards. Somebody tell me what is happening.
Circles are moving.
It's moving.
So you feel that the circles are moving, correct? But
Yes.
but the circles are not moving. Am I right? So this is also a conflict of perception. You understood? This is also, so your eyes are deceiving you. Okay, let's take a look at this. In this picture, tell me how many black dots are there. Count the number of black dots that you see. Do you see black dots?
Yes, sir. Everything is black.
Everything is black. No, dots. I mean circles.
Every circles are black. Looking.
But don't they keep changing to white and black?
1, 2, 3.
The circles keep changing from black to white.
So it is very difficult to count how many black dots, correct? They keep changing to black to white, right? So this is also another problem. What is drawn here is nothing but black squares, and there is gray lines between black squares, and the center portion is left white as blank. Actually, it is white, but you are seeing black. Alternatively, here and there, you keep seeing black, correct? That is how your eyes are deceiving you, because the black squares all around are actually making you see black inside the white also. This is also another problem of perception. There is an overlap of your vision. It's called overlap, because of left and right eyes balance. Your eyes overlap between one side of the image to the other side of the image. So this is one example. Let us see another example. Can you see the image? Are these lines parallel or are they sloping? What do you think?
Parallel.
In reality, they are parallel, but do you see them as parallel? In reality, these lines are drawn parallel, but do you really see them as parallel? Or do you see different slopes in two directions?
They seem to be sloping.
They seem to be sloping, right? So this is again another problem of perception. Actually, what is drawn here are perfectly parallel lines with certain squares which are black, and they are arranged, shifted. They are slightly shifted from alignment. All of them are shifted. You can see. You can create this illusion. You can draw this, or you can cut paper and place it like this, and your eyes will be deceived. You will feel that the lines are not parallel. They are actually. What you can do is you can even make strips of black paper and cut them like this and keep moving the black squares, and you will see this kind of perceptual illusion. All right. Now this is something which perhaps you might have seen. What do you see? Do you see a face or an Eskimo? This kind of images I have already shown you once, but there is something called figure and ground here. There is a conflict between what is known as figure and ground. Sometimes you see a face of human face. Sometimes you see an Eskimo trying to come out of his igloo and coming out into the darkness of the night. Or it could be a face of a Red Indian. See the next image. What do you see here? Which circle is bigger? Central circle. Which of the central? Right side or left side? Which is bigger?
The left side.
You believe that the
Left seems to be bigger.
left side appears to be bigger, but actually if you draw like this, and if you draw perfectly same size circle, it will appear like this. The left side circle will always look bigger than the right. Both have the same diameter, but they appear. So this is another problem. Now this image you are very familiar. I have shown you this image earlier also, correct? So here again there is a conflict in our vision. Now why this is so? This is because our brain is wired. You know, the neurons in our brain, they are wired to see structure, logic, and patterns. There is some kind of wiring in our brain which lets us see patterns. We develop our own logic behind the patterns, and we can see the structure of these patterns also. Actually, this is the way we understand the world around us. But this conflict in our vision was not understood till about 1920s. In 1920s, a group of German psychologists developed theories about perception, which became world famous, these theories of perception. And they explained why human beings have this conflict in perception, and they called it the Gestalt principle. Understood? I think I have told you about this Gestalt principle earlier also. Today, this presentation is all about trying to understand Gestalt principle so that you will be able to express yourself very clearly whenever you do a drawing or a composition, or whenever you do a design in future. All right. So this Gestalt principles, most people, in fact, almost 100% of people will see this triangle, black triangle. At the first instance, they will say, okay, I'm seeing a black triangle. Because our brain is wired like that. And we are used to seeing, we are used to picking up most familiar elements from our visual world and accept that as the final figure that we are perceiving. So this Gestalt principle, which was proposed by those psychologists from Germany, they created what is known as 7 laws of Gestalt. These are those 7 laws. And today we will look at these 7 laws with respect to whatever drawings you have done in the last few days, and also some other examples. And you have already done some of these examples of these 7 laws. So we will take a look at little bit of detail these 7 laws. These 7 laws are called figure, ground, similarity, proximity, common region, continuity, closure, and focal point. Okay, so let us look at them one by one. The principle number 1 called figure and ground. What do you see here? Anybody who can tell me what do you see here?
Apple logo and C.
You are saying apple?
Face.
And face.
You're also seeing a face.
Gandhiji.
You are Ga-
Gandhiji's face.
Gandhiji's face. So that means the apple is bitten by Gandhiji or something?
No.
Oh no. But the apple is bitten by somebody, right? The intention
Hmm.
was to draw an apple bitten by somebody. You have taken a bite. And the bite, unfortunately or fortunately, looks like Gandhiji, correct? Now, why are you saying Gandhiji? If it was because you are familiar with that face, that profile, correct? If you, but you should be saying Steve Jobs. If Apple, now somebody said Steve Jobs because Apple is a logo created by Steve Jobs for his company,
Steve
right?
Jobs. Hmm.
But this apple with Gandhiji here, you are thinking of Steve Jobs, you are thinking of an apple with a bite, but you are also thinking of Gandhiji. This is the problem with our perception. There is a figure and a ground. The background, if it is black, then the figure is apple, correct? If the background is white, then the figure is Gandhiji, right? So this is figure ground principle as identified by the 7 Gestalt principles. This says that people instinctively perceive objects which are familiar as foreground or background. Now, somebody who has never heard or seen about Gandhiji will not see Gandhiji here. He or she will say, some man with a spectacle, correct? Because you have seen Gandhiji's image, you are recognizing this as Gandhiji's image. So, whatever stands out prominently in front, you see as a figure, and whatever is not prominent and remains in the background as the ground. So this is a principle number 1 called figure and ground. Let us go to the next principle. The next principle is called the principle of similarity. Okay. Now, what do you see here? What do you see?
Dot. Square.
Dots and
Triangle, square.
you are also
Square.
seeing square. Square you are seeing because of the dots,
Yes.
correct?
S.
Because you feel that the
Um,
dots are arranged in the form of a square or a diamond or whatever.
Yes.
So you are seeing dots, you are seeing triangle. So this is called similarity, because when certain things appear similar to each other, there is a tendency in our mind to group them together. All right. So you are seeing the circles as similar to one another, you have grouped them together. But when you group them together, you suddenly started seeing a square. So when things appear to be similar to each other, we group them together, and we also think that they have the same function. They are all grouped together. So you see 4 corners of triangles and one central square which contains the circles, correct? So this is again, the square doesn't exist, but you are visualizing that there is a square inside which the circles are created. All right. So, okay. So this is called the principle of similarity. This is the way we also group things when we see things together. A lot of things, similar and dissimilar things, when they are kept together, we tend to group them like this. This is called the principle of similarity. Okay, let us go to the next principle. This principle is called the principle of proximity. Proximity means things that are closer together appear to be grouped together. You see, a same number of circles are there in both these groups, but you don't see them together when you look at the second image on the right. You see them as 2 separate groups, distinct separate groups. When you look at the second group, suddenly you will be able to identify that there are so many numbers in each. But in the first one, you will take some time to realize how many number of circles are there. So this is called proximity. When you put things together or separate them, the things which are close together, they appear to be more related than things which are spaced further apart. This is called the principle of proximity. We use this a lot in separating objects. When we have a lot of objects around with us, when we separate this, we create small groups and separate them, because we need to, supposing we need to count 100 marbles or 200 marbles or n number of marbles which are given to you. You will arrange them and you will use this principle of proximity to create small groups and move them aside to count all of them. Okay. Now, the next is called the principle of common region. When you create a closed line around groups, they appear to be separated. You see, originally all these circles or marbles or whatever circles, they were all kept grouped as a single entity, equidistant from one another. So if these lines were not drawn, you will see them as one big group. But by simply drawing two lines or one rectangle and two rectangles, you have created what is known as common region. So you have separated, visually you have separated things which were kept equidistant from one another, and you feel that they are far apart. So this is called the principle of common region. Okay, this is a wonderful way of creating separation between in a large group with everything is kept equally spaced. But if you want to quickly separate them visually, you draw lines between them and you will be able to easily distinguish between them, create more space between them, though these spaces don't exist. Okay, so now the next principle is known as the principle of continuity. What do you see here? Which line is a continuous line? Is the red line a continuous line or a black line a continuous line? Or is there a connect between the red line and the black line?
Connect.
There is a connect, right? You can separate the red and black combination separately. One is a curved line, the other is a black and red straight line. But what is interesting is they are crossing at a point. At that point, do you see a bigger gap?
Yes.
But that gap doesn't exist. This is how our perception is deceiving us. There is a continuity. We are judging depending upon what we see first, what we want to see first. So we want to see the curved line first, so we feel that the straight lines are separated. All right. So this is called the principle of continuity. The next comes the principle of closure. This principle, I think I have already discussed with you earlier, the principle of closure. What you see here, you see a zebra, right? Why do you see a zebra? Because all these stripes which are drawn, they tend to close together. So there is no connecting line anywhere. If you look at the outline of the zebra, there is no connection. If you can easily take apart each of these stripes. If you take apart each of these stripes and spread them around, you will not be able to see a zebra. But because all these stripes have come together in a particular pattern, it creates the principle called closure. We discussed this closure principle earlier also. So this allows you to see an image which actually is not drawn. Yes, exactly. So you can see this as an image which you want to see. You want to see the zebra, so your eyes are creating what is known as the closure principle to see that. Okay, the next principle called focal point. Which focal point means your eyes are drawn to a particular point deliberately. An event or a shape is created using either color or using either shape or using different kind of orientation, using a different kind of direction, slight shift in the shape. Your eyes are drawn to that first. Whenever you look at this image, yes.
So is there a difference between focal point and emphasis?
Exactly. I wanted you to ask that question. Both these words mean totally emphasis means you have tried to lay emphasis onto this point. Focal point is just the name of that position. Understood? Emphasis is a feeling. Difference between the word focal point and emphasis is you have tried to create the feeling of emphasis. The response called emphasis using focal point as a principle. Focal point is a principle. It is a fixed entity. Focal point is a principle, a fixed entity, whereas emphasis is a feeling as a response of your mind. So you have created both are true. Emphasis is also true. Focal point is also true. So now you remember the questions that you have been attempting in the test that I have been giving you. There could be multiple answers. One answer will perhaps have the highest score, whereas another answer may have a little lower score, because what stands out as the correct answer gets the highest score. So questions can be framed like this also. There could be multiple answers to one question with a varying degree of hierarchy of answers. Like first one particular answer may be the most correct than the other answer. So same thing here. It could also be called emphasis, also can be called focal point. All right. Okay. So what is perception? So we have looked at all these 7 principles, and remember these 7 principles because they are very crucial to creating compositions or creating designs, not only for architects but for all kinds of designers, graphic designers, logo designers, fashion designers, product designers, architects, all kinds of designers. They need to understand what is perception, what is human perceptions, what are these fundamental principles which guide human perceptions. So images of unconscious mind play a vital role in decision making. This is something to be remembered. The image of your unconscious mind, the image of Mahatma Gandhi, helped you make that decision that you are seeing Gandhiji. Those in whose unconscious mind the image of Mahatma Gandhi does not exist would not have seen Mahatma Gandhi there. Understood? Often what we appear to see is not reality. This is also another very interesting rule about perception. Often what we appear to see is not reality. As designers, we have to strive to see the real, yet create illusions by playing with the elements of design. Remember this third principle all the time whenever you work. As designers, you should make conscious effort to see real, but try to create illusion by playing with the elements of design. That is the success of a designer, trying to not to do everything that is real, that is there in the realistic world, but to create abstractions out of design. The word is called abstraction, which I have not taught you yet, but we will look at abstraction as a principle in the future classes, and we will try and understand how abstraction is created from the real world. So there you will understand how to follow this third principle, how designers should strive to create illusions or abstractions by playing with the elements of design. Visual experience is dynamic, and there are 10 attributes to visual experience of a creative design. You have already seen these 10 attributes of visual experience. So we'll just take a look at those visual experience, the attributes of visual experience, which goes like this. You are familiar with all this: balance, shape, form. Some of these you are not familiar: form, growth, space, light, color, movement, dynamics, and expression. You are somewhat familiar with balance. You are somewhat familiar with shape, and some of you are familiar with color also. Other aspects like light, movement, dynamics, expression, space, growth, form, all these aspects we will touch upon in the future classes, and by end of this session of classes you will be able to understand all of this in not in detail but in some way, so that you are able to use them as principles when you create designs or compositions, two-dimensional designs or compositions. Now this is something which we have already shared, already looked at, the relationship between figure and ground and creation of shapes. You have already experienced creation of shapes. You have understood the significance of dot, lines, planes, and how patterns are formed by them, how they are the fundamentals of creation of shapes, and how figure-ground relationship is the fundamental basis of depth perceptions. You understood elements of visual composition. Shapes are elements of visual field and thus composition. You understood that shapes are always set against a background. Dot and line create shapes, the extended aspects of direction, movement, dimension, and scale. And shapes get identity with geometry, color, and texture. You have experienced all of this. This is the fundamental principle which you learned last week, and you have been exploring this. You have to continue exploring this. I told you that these are the alphabets of design. Like in English language, there are 26 alphabets. In Devanagari, there are 52 alphabets. In the world of design, there are only 5 alphabets, 5 different types of shapes, which we use in so many different ways, using so many principles of design, and create fascinating designs. Now, very interestingly, we have to use principles to use shapes to create a design, just like grammar for languages, except one language. Are you familiar with this language? Do you know this is Chinese? Can you figure out what Chinese is all about? Chinese language is called a pictorial language. Have you seen Chinese script? It is very difficult to decipher Chinese script because they don't represent sound. Say English language or any of the languages anywhere in the world, the alphabets of all these languages represent sound. That is what we speak, the sound we produce. A, B, C, D, they are all sounds. Or K, K, G, G, they are all sounds, and we have created symbols to represent those sounds. That means all the languages representations are based on phonetics. The science is called phonetics, the science of sound making, except Chinese. You know, Chinese language is actually not sound based, but theme based. They're all concept based. Chinese language expression is more like making compositions. They're all drawings which express a theme. So you can see here, if you try to closely put down the Chinese alphabet in the form of English alphabet, this is what you see. Look at W, for example, or X. There are 3 different shapes here to organize so that they will read it as not as X, they will read it as EKC. Can you hear this? Try to read out the pronunciation of ABCD in Chinese. Any one of you, please try. It will be fun speaking Chinese. Try to speak Chinese using the pronunciation which is written on the screen. Chinese will not read it as A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Can you figure out how they will read?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, one of you try this. Who is trying this? Read the Chinese pronunciation and read it fast, and you will sound like a Chinese speaking.
Tiachi.
Yes. Now, do you understand how Chinese language is very different? It's a visual language. It is not phonetic language. It doesn't represent the sound that we produce. It represents concepts and themes exactly the way you are creating concepts and themes as part of compositions which you have been doing. So in Chinese language also, there is something called balance, rhythm, contrast, harmony. They use all of this in the expression of their language in the script form. And you should know there are 6,500 alphabets in Chinese, so-called alphabets. We are aware of only 26 in English, maybe 52, which is maximum, say in Hindi or Devanagari or in our languages. But in Chinese, there are 6,500 different shapes that they use to express their language, which is amazing. So it is one of the toughest languages in the world, Mandarin, the language, because they use all these principles of visual composition and they read it as a theme or as a visual statement, not the way we think of language as A, B, C, D or K, K, G. So principles of visual compositions are balance, rhythm, contrast, harmony, and proportion, unity, and emphasis, which we try to achieve. This already you have experience, and you will continue to explore all this, and you will continue to keep making shapes, create figure and ground. You have been doing all this. I have already discussed many of these aspects with you in earlier class. And I'll hope that you will continue to do all this. You have to do this. The reason why I have told you this is you need to create. Now, this is something which you have created without knowing the theory behind why you are doing this. Am I right? Whose work is this?
This cat is mine.
Mine means who? Hisana.
Sandra.
Okay, so
Sandra dear.
okay, so see, you have created this without knowing the theory behind why you have created this. But they are wonderful compositions. So now when you look back at these compositions, you will now like to relate it to the theory that you are learning. All of these are your compositions. All these compositions I have asked you to share in the group so that all of you can save all these compositions and study them with respect to the theory that you have just now learned. And in future, you will keep on learning theory. Always practicals will come first, theory will follow later, so that you will be able to relate to whatever you are doing as practical work, the theory that you will learn a little later. And side by side, this will help you improve your capacity to create compositions, visual compositions. All right. So with this, we will come to the end of our presentation. All this that you have already seen. See, visual world is just like the blind man's elephant. How many legs do you see here? How many legs? Anyone who can tell me how many elephants' legs you see here?
5.
5, 4, 6, 8. How many?
5.
So many of them.
Nine.
Correct. So many of them. So do you see this is the illusion of perception. Okay. So visual perception, why I am showing you this image is anybody can interpret it in any way they want. Correct. And everyone is right. This simply means in all other disciplines, there is only one answer. If you are studying electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, or any other subject in this world, if you are asked a question, there is only one correct answer. Okay? Except in the field of design. In the field of design, all answers are correct. No answer is wrong. So if you are given a design, 40 of you do 40 different design, all answers are correct. You can't say that only one person is correct or 10 persons are correct. All answers are correct. Only thing is relatively they are graded differently based on how well they have understood the principles behind those products. Okay, so don't worry about what you are doing as a design. Every design that you do is correct. Nothing is wrong. What is expected from you is to develop the skill of designing. You must be very careful. You must be very focused about the skill that you are developing. You should be neat in your work. You should be very skillful in your work. It is like staring at this black dot. There is a lot of gray area around the black dot, right? But if you keep staring at this black dot, what happens? Keep staring at it. So you will see that the black gray area around it is reducing. You will see more and more light around. And finally, if you keep staring at it for a long time, you will see only the black dot. Your method of working should be like this. Don't lose your focus of your work. Be very particular about your skill, neatness of your work, and take your time to do your work. Always put efforts into doing a neat work and good looking work. Don't worry that whether the work is going to be correct or whether it will be judged good or bad. It will never be judged bad. The scale of judgment of a work of art is always relative in nature. So you don't have to worry about what you're going to do. Be focused on what you're doing. All right. So now you can ask questions. Anyone you want to ask any questions? If you
Sir,
yeah, anybody?
what is the difference between emphasis and contrast?
Wonderful question. Emphasis and contrast. See, emphasis is always on one element. Contrast is between two elements. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
You understood. Emphasis is always on one element, one part, or one object, or one color, or one part of the design, whereas contrast is between two things, two different things. You cannot have contrast with just one element around. You have to have an opposite so that you can contrast with the opposite. So that's the difference between emphasis and contrast. Good question, very good question. Anybody else?
So what about unity and harmony?
Unity and harmony. Okay, that's also a very good question. See, harmony can be created with one single element. For example, you draw a curved line, draw many curved lines parallel to each other or maybe changing directions. Okay, imagine such a composition. You have drawn in only one element, correct? Curved lines. And still they will look very harmonious as if there is a wave. Am I clear? Is it clear to you? I'm trying to speak
Yes.
design.
Yes.
So using just single element, you have created harmony. But when you create harmony using many elements together, you have a circle, you have a square, you have a triangle, and so many elements, but still the put together, the entire thing looks very harmonious. You will say that it has got unity in it. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
See, for example, in our country, we are so many people speaking 25, 26 different languages, but there is a unity among us. Though we don't understand one another's language, but still there is a unity, correct? And we united, we say that we are all Indians. Am I right? So something very similar. So it is something very similar. you have so many different elements in a visual composition, but they are arranged in such a manner that there is a kind of a harmony in their arrangement. And so then that can be called unity. So when you see harmony in multiple elements put together, you can say that there is unity. Unity is a quality which is seen in a composition. Unity is a quality. All right. Anything else? Anybody else?
What is the difference between contrast and balance?
Contrast and balance. That is also a good question. See, contrast, balance can be of many kinds. Contrast will be of only one kind. This is the difference. Contrast will be of only one kind. You can say there is contrast between color, contrast between light and dark, contrast between black and white. Okay, contrast will be between two opposites. But balance can be of, again, just like unity and this, balance can be of several elements. You know, you can arrange, you can create contrast between a white square and a black square. You can create contrast between a white triangle and a black triangle. But balance you can create by arranging square, rectangle, triangle, circle, by changing their sizes, correct? Visual balance. It's called visual balance. All right. So there is a difference between contrast and balance. Contrast is between two opposites. Always there are two opposites, say white and black contrast, yellow and it's complementary, yellow and black contrast, and so on.
Can contrast and balance overlap?
Yes, definitely. Why not? Contrast and balance can try this. Now, these are very good questions. Remember this question. I want you to, who asked this? Krishna asked this question, right? Try to make a composition in which contrast and balance overlaps. See, this is now after seeing all this, you are getting ideas. When you get such ideas and such questions in your mind, write them down and try to solve them using a composition. That is the way you solve a problem. You are asking question to get an answer, right? In the world of vision, visual world, when a question comes in your mind, the best way to find answer is not to ask someone, but create a composition. Try to solve that question by making a composition which answers your question. All right, is it clear?
Is there any similarity between rhythm and movement?
Yes, both are quite similar to each other, rhythm and movement. How to explain rhythm and movement? Movement can be ascribed to individual parts of a larger entity, okay? Whereas rhythm is for the entire entity. For example, look at I'll give you an example, try to imagine. There is water flowing in the river, gently water, imagine, okay? And there are lots of leaves floating in the river, in the waves, okay? So you say that there is a rhythm in the waves of the river, but there is movement of the leaves in the river. Do you understand this difference?
Yeah, yes.
The leaves are actually riding on the waves. I'm trying to visually depict this. So if you now you can make a composition. I have visually depicted this. Try to make a composition in which you have leaves floating in waves as a color composition or a black and white composition. And you can say that there is movement. Movement is ascribed to the individual elements, leaves which are moving, and the leaves which are distant in the composition may look smaller. The leaves which are closer to you may look bigger. So there is a movement. Leaves are all of the same size, but when they are going to faraway places, they are looking smaller and smaller. So there is a movement, but the rhythm is because of the movement of the waves. All right. Okay. Any other question? Wonderful question. Very good question.
Sir,
yeah. Anybody?
What is informal balance?
Informal balance. Formal and informal balance. Formal balance is where you use a particular axis for arranging several elements. You have an axis. You know what is an axis? A center line. It could be a diagonal line or a central line in the frame. Okay. So around that axis you arrange in the visual world. I'm talking about formal and informal balance as in composition. But if you try to do this not around an axis is not visible, but the elements are arranged in such a manner that there is a balance between sizes of the shapes. black and white perhaps, areas of black and areas of white, if it is just a pure black and white composition. So then that will be called an informal balance, correct? Because there is no fixed axis about which there is a balance. When there is no, you can say when there is no fixed axis about which there is a balance, then it is called an informal balance. When there is an axis, you can easily see an axis, a line, maybe angular or vertical or whatever, about which there is a balance, that will be called a formal balance. എല്ലാവർക്കും മനസ്സിലാവുന്നുണ്ടോ? I am speaking in English, you are free to speak in Malayalam. മലയാളത്തിലും എന്തെങ്കിലുമൊക്കെ ചോദിക്കണമെങ്കിൽ ചോദിക്കാം. Don't worry about. See, this is important. ഇത് നമ്മൾ ഒരു കാര്യം മനസ്സിലാക്കേണ്ടത് എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ, ഇവിടെ നമ്മുടെ ഭാഷ എന്താ? കോമൺ ലാംഗ്വേജ് ഇംഗ്ലീഷും അല്ല മലയാളവും അല്ല, മലയാളവും അല്ല നമ്മുടെ ഭാഷ. നമ്മളുടെ ഭാഷയാണ് drawing. Drawing is our language. We are communicating with each other using drawings, and that is our common language. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മളുടെ ഭാഷ ആക്ച്വലി ലാംഗ്വേജ് ആണ്. ഒരു ഡിസൈനർ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ വേറെ ഭാഷയുടെ ആവശ്യമൊന്നുമില്ല. ഒരു ഡിസൈനർ ആർട്ടിസ്റ്റ് ആരായാലും ചെയ്യുന്ന വർക്ക് ലോകത്ത് ആര് കണ്ടു കഴിഞ്ഞാലും അവർക്ക് മനസ്സിലാവും, അപ്രീഷിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. ഭാഷ അറിയണമെന്നില്ല. മനസ്സിലായില്ലേ? സോ നമ്മളുടെ ഭാഷ, അതായത് ഡിസൈനേഴ്സിന്റെ ലാംഗ്വേജ് ഭാഷ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ആണ് ദിസ് പ്രിൻസിപ്പിൾസ് ഓഫ് പെർസെപ്ഷൻ. നിങ്ങളിപ്പോൾ കണ്ട പ്രിൻസിപ്പിൾസ് ഓഫ് പെർസെപ്ഷൻ. അപ്പോൾ അത് മനസ്സിലായിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് നമ്മളുടെ ഭാഷയിലെ ആദ്യം ഇപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾ എഴുതുന്നത് ആൽഫബറ്റ്സ് ആണെങ്കിൽ കുറച്ച് കഴിയുമ്പോൾ കവിത എഴുതാൻ പറ്റും. മനസ്സിലായോ? നിങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യുന്ന കോമ്പോസിഷൻ ഒരു കവിതയാണെന്ന് പറയാൻ പറ്റും കുറെ കഴിയുമ്പോൾ. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു കോമ്പോസിഷൻ ഒരു കഥ, ഒരു നോവൽ പോലെ ഉണ്ടെന്ന് തോന്നും. ദ വേ യു മേക്ക് ദ കോമ്പോസിഷൻ. ഡു യു അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡ് ദാറ്റ്? ഇത് പറയണത് മനസ്സിലാവുന്നുണ്ടോ? നിങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യുന്ന വർക്കിന് ഒരു കവിതയാക്കി മാറ്റാൻ പറ്റും, ഒരു കഥയാക്കി മാറ്റാൻ പറ്റും ആസ് എ കോമ്പോസിഷൻ. ബിക്കോസ് നമ്മളുടെ ലാംഗ്വേജ്, ഭാഷ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഷേപ്സ് ആർ ദ ബേസിക് എലിമെന്റ്സ്, ആൻഡ് ദെൻ അവർ ഗ്രാമർ ഈസ് ഇൻ ദ ഫോം ഓഫ് all those principles of composition. Is it clear? ഈ ഭാഷയാണ് നമ്മൾ പഠിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. അതിനിപ്പോൾ മലയാളം ആയാലും ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് ആയാലും ഹിന്ദി ആയാലും does not make any difference. Okay, so wish you all the best, and then continue. We'll have more classes in future like this, but not very often. Only when certain we conclude with some activities. കുറെ പ്രാക്ടിക്കൽസ് ചെയ്ത് കഴിയുമ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഒരു തിയറി ക്ലാസ് ഉണ്ടാവും. ഓക്കെ, സോ ഇപ്പം ഉണ്ടായത് ഒരു തിയറി ക്ലാസ് ആണ്. നിങ്ങൾ ഇത്രയും നാളും ചെയ്ത പ്രാക്ടിക്കൽ വർക്കിനെ മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി ചെയ്ത തിയറി ക്ലാസ് ആണ്. കുറച്ച് കഴിയുമ്പോൾ കുറേ കൂടി പ്രാക്ടിക്കൽ ചെയ്ത് കഴിയുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് അടുത്ത തിയറി ക്ലാസ്സിലേക്ക്